Jonathan, when you have a game like that where you have your chances and you hold them without a shot for a long period of time, you do everything right and you still don't get the win. Do you take positives out of that, or at this point of the playoffs, is that just more and more frustrating?
There's no good or bad. I mean, we're down 3 games, and tomorrow's a must win to stay alive. So that's just the reality, and that's the way we look at it. Did a lot of good things, like you said. We were working for the bounces, pucks were laying around. Just didn't find the back of the net. Tomorrow we just gotta believe that we will.
Phil Thompson, Chicago Tribune.
Again, for Jonathan, do you take heart that you had a lot of great chances, or are you more frustrated by some of the missed opportunities that were laying there for you?
I mean, like I just said, it's hard when the bounces don't go your way, and you're working hard, you're making good plays, you're making things happen. I mean, these two sitting next to me were all over the puck in the offensive zone tonight. Could have had a bunch, but the only choice we have right now is not to be frustrated and to focus on tomorrow. We keep doing a lot of the same things. We still have that belief that we can get a win, and then we'll go from there.
Tracy Myers, NHL.com.
Hi, this is for Alex. You were talking the other day about how you weren't frustrated because you were getting the chances. You got the chances again tonight, and were you feeling like, okay, tonight was going to be the night that you were gonna capitalize?
Yeah, I thought I had a lot of good chances. Just didn't squeak through. Tomorrow's a new day, and it's going to go on tomorrow.
We'll take the next question for Oli Mata. If not, we'll wrap up with the guys here. Phil Thompson, go ahead.
Yes, Oli, can you talk about the lift that goal that you had provided, and whether you regained confidence at that time, or if you guys never lost confidence up to that point?
Can you repeat the question? I didn't hear all of it.
About the effect that your goal had on the team emotionally, if that was a lift or if you guys already were confident.
I think we're pushing, and obviously we're down 2 goals, and when you get one, you have a chance, and I think we pushed hard, and we got some chances there, but obviously it's a good team. They defend well, so I think we just gotta find a little more. I think what Taser and Kitty said, we did a lot of good things today, and could have had way more goals than just one, but just didn't go in. You can't get down on yourself, and just tomorrow's a new day, and it's a big game for us.
Take one more question for the guys. John Dietz, go ahead.
Oli, you played with Marc-Andre for a long time. Could you just talk a little bit about his performance tonight and what makes him so difficult to beat as a goaltender?
Yeah, I think he competes hard. He's obviously an elite goalie. He's been around for a long time. He's been in those tough situations, playoff games. But I think for us, I think we had our chance. We just gotta execute. Couple of post bounces out. In a better day, those are gonna go in. So it's tough now, but it is what it is.
Thanks, guys. We're now joined by Chicago Blackhawks head coach Jeremy Colleton.
Tough defeat, obviously. Puts us in a desperate situation. I really liked our start. I thought we were really good in the first period. Probably the only thing missing was execution. I thought we left some plays on the table at times, and we did a lot of good things away from the puck and put ourselves in good situations to create offense. Still a good period. Second period I thought was pretty good until we had to kill those 2 penalties in a row. And from there to the end of the period, I think we weren't very good, and end up, they get the second goal, and then it's tough. It's an uphill battle against a very disciplined team who makes you work for everything you get. And I thought we played hard. We created enough chances in the game to score more than one goal. We just couldn't find a way to get the second one. So, in our situation, like, there's nothing left to do but to rest up, regroup, and put everything we have into tomorrow's game, and then we see what happens.
We'll take questions for Coach on Zoom. Carter Baum, Blackhawks.com.
Jeremy, your team kept fighting, and especially in the third, had a lot of chances to really get back in it. How much, I guess, pride does that give you kind of going into tomorrow, knowing this team doesn't seem to ever give up, or hasn't, at least to any point this season?
Yeah, well, we want to be that team who plays to the end, never quits. And I think we showed character to come back. But, in the end, it's a results thing, and we got to find a way to finish it. And so that'll be our focus going into tomorrow. Don't quit. Be prepared to battle and put all we have into the game tomorrow, and just win one.
Charlie Rumeliotis, NBC Sports.
Hey, Jeremy, I know it's a quick turnaround, and this one was a little bit demoralizing given all the chances that you guys got, but how do you keep the guys upbeat going into tomorrow?
Yeah, well, I mean, tonight, it's not the time. We don't have to play till tomorrow. So hopefully they'll get some rest, and then we'll have our meetings tomorrow, and we'll wrap them up again. And no one's going to feel sorry for us. We got to make our own breaks here and find a way to be better than them for 60. And I think it's another case of we had a couple really good stretches of the game, but we got to find a way to sustain it longer to beat them. And that'll be the message tomorrow.
Phil Thompson, Chicago Tribune.
Jeremy, there was a lot of great things, but can you talk about a couple of the breakdowns? It seems like, with Keith's turnover and Boquist's missed assignment, the little things seem to pay very big consequences. Just seems like small mistakes.
Yeah, they're a good team, so they make you pay when you not as sharp as you hope to be. They made mistakes too, and they capitalized on two of theirs, and we didn't. So obviously, we want to be sharp all the time when you're on the ice, but it's a game of mistakes, and part of it's forcing them to make more. So that's something we're going to continue to push. Be aggressive, play to win. Don't be afraid of failure. We got nothing to lose here. So we got to go after them and put them under pressure and see what happens.
John Dietz, Daily Herald.
Hey, Jeremy, do you guys feel like snake bit right now? I mean, it seems like every game you've been right there all the way to the end, and you just can't get the puck to go in at the right time.
Well, we can't be a victim. It's we're playing hard, proud of the work ethic. We need to find another level. It's the time we can feel sorry for ourselves later on. Now's not the time for that. Now we got to be better than them for 60 tomorrow, and continue to put pucks at the net. Find a way to maybe we can get a couple more greasy rebound goals. Find a way to get inside them, and then I think they've been getting their chances in bunches. They get 4 in one shift or 4 on a power play, whatever it may be. We got to find a way to limit those. That will help us. And I point to that end of the second period stretch where game got away from us a little bit. Prefer to just calm it down.
Take a couple more for Coach. Tracy Myers, NHL.com.
Hey, Jeremy, no surprise that Patrick Kane played a lot of minutes tonight. Probably, most likely he's doing the same thing again tomorrow, just given the fact that he loves to be in situations like this.
Well, if he looks fresh, he's going to play. He's an important player for us. And, of course, when you're down, and he looked like he was flying and he made a lot of plays tonight, I thought he's going to be on the ice. So see how the game goes.
Ben Pope with the last question for Coach.
Hey, Jeremy, you guys have had 3 games now against this Vegas defense, and based on your comments from the pregame availability, it sounds like you guys have developed a pretty good understanding of how it works. Why has it been so difficult to translate that onto the ice and to break through?
I think that's what the playoffs are about. We make adjustments, they make adjustments. They're a good team. We knew what they were doing before the series, and it's just finding a way. We're trying to execute what we want to do, and they're doing the same thing. There's no. We're just going to keep working at it.
Thanks, Coach.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Sports Medicine Update, a weekly podcast. Yours truly, Jerry Riles, and the Honorable Dr. Chad Padromas. Doc, how are you?
Having a great day, Jerry. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. Dr. Chadwick Padromas, Illinois Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center's weekly podcast, and we always look forward to joining you and having you on board because of the knowledge that you bring to the table, doctor, the insight that you bring, your perspective, and just to help the average person watching this podcast, listening to this podcast, bring a little bit more education to their world of sports as far as sports injuries and sports medicine are concerned. We don't want anyone to get injured or get hurt while they're out there maybe shooting the ball in the driveway with their youngsters, or out there on the golf course, or maybe some skateboarders. And with the beautiful summer months here in the Chicagoland area, if you happen to be out skateboarding or riding a bike and you suffer some type of injury, we certainly don't want that to happen. But if it does, Dr. Chad Padromas is here to support, help you, and guide you and advise you throughout your journey. So, we go to the NBA, Doc, and we talk about the bubble and how successful during this pandemic and the coronavirus era that we're currently living in. And we see that the NBA in that bubble down in Orlando are doing a pretty decent job, a pretty good job as far as the testing are concerned with the players and, the low numbers. We see it's not working so well in Major League Baseball. So what happened with the Marlins down in Florida, and of course what's currently going on with the St. Louis Cardinals having to cancel games with the Cubs and the White Sox. I think they're expected to get underway back in the business sometime this weekend. We see what's happened with the National Hockey League up at Canada. They're doing a great job controlling everything, and still remains to be seen what happens with the National Football League. But we know on the collegiate level and the high school level, fall sports has been affected. But as far as the NBA bubble is concerned and the coronavirus and everything that's happened, there's other news and speculations coming out of the bubble, and we go to Philadelphia with the 76ers, and one of their up-and-coming stars, their superstars, Ben Simmons, unfortunately suffered an injury that, put him on the shelf. Joel Embiid, their other star player, had ankle injury, but the surgery, so to speak, and you can correct me on this, I guess we got a call from, or a response from one of our viewers to ask, the procedure that Ben Simmons underwent, some loose bodies being removed from his left knee. Now, the average person watching and listening to this podcast go, what's a loose body? How do you remove a loose body from an athlete's knee? Is this a new term? And can you shed some light on this loose body treatment that Ben Simmons with the Philadelphia 76ers underwent?
Sure. Actually, it's a really old term that goes back before the era of arthroscopic surgery. Usually, we see it in the context of older people with arthritis. But in his case, and by the way, in all cases like this, I have no inside information, and if I did, I couldn't share it anyway. I just read the papers like everybody else. But what's pretty clear from what's out there is that he had something called a subluxation of his kneecap. So the kneecap or patella sits in the front of the knee, but it's encased in structures called retinaculum. They're kind of like ligaments that hold it in a little groove. And the kneecap can tend to go out of the joint toward the outside. And if it goes out completely, it's called a dislocation. If it goes out partially and goes back in, it's called a subluxation. By all the accounts that I read, he had a subluxation. It's in susceptible people. You can get it from twisting your knee. It is more often seen in people who are looser jointed than others if it's atraumatic, if you don't get hit with something, which I think was the case with him, although I'm not sure. So what happened was, apparently, is that the kneecap went out and went back in, but in the process of going out and going in, and you kind of got your, the kneecap, and it kind of goes out like this and goes back in. In the process of doing that, you can knock off a piece of cartilage. So I don't want this to be an anatomy class, but the cartilage terminology is a little confusing because there's two kinds of cartilage in the knee. There's what's called articular cartilage that coats the bone, kind of like Teflon on a frying pan or like a non-stick coating, which is what it is. It lets the knee glide. And then there's meniscal cartilage. When they talk about having a torn cartilage, often they're talking about that. So this is the articular cartilage that coats the bone. So what almost certainly happened is a piece of that got knocked off and is floating around in the knee. Now, the key thing to know about this is, actually, that happens reasonably often with this problem, and most of the time we don't take it out. Usually it just kind of scars down. So I don't know if they took it out in his case, because if it's a big piece, it'll float around and can cause problems. But the other thing is, the loose body itself is usually not the main problem. The main problem, if there is a main problem, is the crater that it came from. Because when a piece of cartilage is knocked off, you've got exposed bone underneath. And when you have bone gliding against other cartilage, this can cause all kinds of problems. So I don't know. Maybe this is just a small loose body that they took out just because he's Ben Simmons. It was a good sized piece. Now, when you go in to take it out, sometimes you will do something called a microfracture to the remaining cavity. There are other things you can do too, and I haven't read anybody describing this, but there are other techniques you can do. You can even take a biopsy of your cartilage and send it off and grow it and put it back in to grow it. So it was just kind of interesting because it was first reported as a loose body, but then he was reported as being out for the season. To just go in with a scope after a subluxation and take out a loose body, usually the recovery is very quick. However, if the crater where it came from is of significant size, then the recovery won't be. So again, I don't know for sure, but it'll be interesting to see. He's kind of got jeopardy in a couple of places going forward. One, if that crater is big, it can cause problems. And that's the thing, by the way, that derails NBA careers in general, is the articular cartilage just gets beat up, and pretty soon you don't have much coating anymore. But the other thing is, the fact that it's subluxated once, unless you surgically go in and tighten things up, which I don't think they did, you're kind of prone to having it happen again. The other thing is that the kneecap is part of the quadriceps mechanism. It's related to that muscle, and that's where you get explosiveness from in jumping. Not really running, but jumping. Running come more from your hamstrings. So you don't know a guy like Ben Simmons, who's just an unbelievable athlete. I think everybody knows. Guy who's got the size of a center and the terrific speed and all that. You just have to wonder if that extensor mechanism, it's called, the quadriceps tendon, the kneecap, the quadriceps muscle, if that is rendered inflamed, then that's the kind of thing that can kind of cut into your athleticism. And just by comparison a little bit, maybe. So Derrick Rose, very explosive athlete, super athlete, right? And tore his ACL. So the ACL is a ligament that destabilizes the knee. And if you fix it, and he had a very good surgeon, did a great job, and it's been fine, that doesn't necessarily lead to a loss of explosiveness. It can, but there isn't anything inherent to the ACL that does. But if you've got cartilage problems on the back of your kneecap or the socket for it, that's the kind of thing that can directly lead to a loss of explosiveness. I'm not saying it will happen. I hope it doesn't happen. But, sometimes that kind of thing could just be the beginning of, attrition of the knee.
Hey, Doc, that's great breakdown, a great analogy. as far as the diagnosis is concerned, regarding Ben Simmons, did he experience, in your opinion, your knowledge of this, did he experience discomfort, or does this cause, excruciating pain that it needs to be addressed? Because as athletes, younger or older, in between, when you have an injury or an ailment, in most cases you feel as if, okay, I can work myself through this pain. For instance, when you get a Charlie horse, that muscle tightens up, and you figure, hey, I can tough it out, and I can work it out, and I'm fine. I think I shared a story a few podcasts back where my son tore his ACL, and for a good month and a half, 2 months, he thought it was just a knee injury, and of course, once he went in after the X-ray with the MRI, it revealed that there was a torn ACL. But for Ben Simmons' situation, is it a discomfort where an athlete can feel like, or he felt like, hey, I can just stretch this out, run it out? Or is it excruciating pain that you say, hey, we've got to address this immediately because it's a lot more serious than what we believe?
Yeah, so in some of it, great question. And in fact, there's a spectrum, kind of a continuum. The subluxations usually are not real painful. The dislocations are, because there's this thing that's called the retinaculum, kind of like a ligament. And if you dislocate it, usually it ruptures. If you subluxate it, usually you don't. So you usually don't get a lot of bleeding or acute pain, but it's variable, and you can. So, I'm in someone like him, they're going to get an MRI in every case. And so, pain or not, they probably wanted to give it time to heal on its own, and they probably, I guess, saw the loose body, said they wanted to take it out, or it might have been, it might have been big enough that they wanted to do something to address what they have disclosed. And I mean, why should they? It's nobody's business but his. But usually it's not terrible pain. The other thing that can be bad is if it subluxates a little and you go back too soon. It's kind of like with shoulders. The shoulders do the same thing, except with the shoulder, you're not running, so it's a little better tolerated. So it probably could have been, but in most cases with a subluxation, it's not horrible pain. But maybe it was a good size loose body, or maybe he felt, you can feel this thing. They used to call it a joint mouse, because it felt like, in the days before MRIs, like a little mouse running around inside your knee. So you can get mechanical problems. You're moving around and there's things sticking and catching, and you have to get it out for that reason. Although for that to happen, that's usually a very large loose body, which usually you don't get so much from his injury. So, I mean, my guess is that they got the MRI, they saw it, they knew what happened, they figured they wanted to give him some time off, wanted to get the loose body out sooner than later. But I did think it was maybe a little unexpected that they shut him down completely after doing that. Makes you wonder if, maybe that crater was good size. But I don't want to speculate because there's no way to know.
No, but that's a great question, because everyone's wondering, with this surgery, one, why didn't they know sooner? And two, is this going to affect what happens next year? Obviously, with the pandemic, if we get beyond that, they find a vaccine or whatever the case may be, and things return back to some sort of normalcy, will Ben Simmons be able to, return and play next season based on what he experienced with this loose body, currently? That's one of the big questions.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing. So he's a really interesting player, and fabulous athlete, all-star, a couple years running, point guard at 6'10". But as is pretty well known, he scores, but he's just been reluctant to take outside shots. He basically, the whole last year, I don't think he took but a half a dozen three-pointers, if that. And he just doesn't like shooting from anything except, 10 feet or whatever on in. I will say this, and last year was supposed to be the year that he was actually going to shoot more, and he didn't. And I guess he figures, the team did well, and his game's good enough with that. But I do think that it wouldn't be a bad idea. Who am I to give advice? But this might be the time to work on your shot a little bit, because, relying on being, a freakish athlete, if you lose a little bit of that, maybe nice to have a a shot to fall back on.
Well, from your perspective, from my perspective, it is simply a logical perspective. Expand your game. And we've seen the superstars do it, whether it's Michael Jordan, whether it's Magic Johnson, whether it's, currently with LeBron James and Kobe Bryant, what they were able to do with their game to adjust to the game. Unfortunately, you talk about, in my opinion, Ben Simmons, and another player comes to mind, Giannis Antetokounmpo with the Milwaukee Bucks. The stigma on him is the fact that you're right. He won't shoot that outside shot as well. And even when the bubble, that kind of resurfaced that he doesn't have an outside shot and he can't shoot the three-pointer. And I know he and Kyle Korver were working on shooting those three-pointers to open up his game. But Ben Simmons had the same type of style when he was at LSU, I believe, in the collegiate ranks. His pot of gold was at the rim to score. And athletes, as we know, are creatures of habit. And whatever got them there, they continue to incorporate that style of play. And I think that's probably one of the reasons those two players in particular, they make their bread and butter at the rim inside the paint area. And when you ask them to do something differently to help themselves out, as far as expanding their game from beyond the arc, they're not comfortable in doing that, and so they resort back to the game style that they're comfortable with and familiar with, and got them to that point, despite what anyone else may say. So, it is. I say all that to say, those are some great athletes, but you can't really expect them to change their game to the point where it's going to, make them better and elevate their teams to the next level, because in their mind, their mentality, that's how they play, that's what they're comfortable with, and that's what they're going to continue to do to reach their goals and to overcome their deficiencies, so to speak.
Yeah, no, you're obviously right. I think Giannis is a little more inclined to take outside shots, and he's taking some three-pointers, and
he'll take them on it.
Yeah,
I remember he's been working on it.
There's a press conference.
Yeah, he's still not comfortable to the degree that you want him to be. And when it's crunch time, if you watch his game and it's crunch time, he's not going to pull up for a three. He's going to take it to the rim and do what he's comfortable with. But he has tried to expand his game to make it a entirely complete game. And when you're in the talks of MVP, it's hard to argue against that. But with Ben Simmons, he's still somewhat of a young player, and I believe he's still set in his ways, and it's going to take a little bit more time, maybe a couple more seasons for him to get comfortable with expanding his game, shooting beyond the arc. But right now, I think he's comfortable with, playing close to the rim.
Yeah, that's true. And again, what do I know? But I know that my daughter was in college in Philadelphia, so she was kind of following them some. So we used to talk about it a little bit. And he actually generated some heat from his coach, because his coach is Australian and Ben Simmons is Australian. And because he's a point guard that wouldn't shoot. Giannis is either a 4 or a 5 who wouldn't. So it's probably not the urgency. And so it just kind of puts a premium on having other shooters, since he really wasn't. So I don't know. Maybe this will be the thing. And I think I remember in the preseason they had videos of him, and he seemed like he could shoot it pretty well. And he had a nice stroke. He just kind of wouldn't, and he's taking heat for it. I know Stephen A. Smith, for one, was saying they're going no place. This is last year before the playoffs. She said until he takes an outside shot, they're going no place. Maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but
he's right. I think that coming into this after the long layoff, what is it, 142 days or something that there was a layoff from when this pandemic hit to getting back to the bubble. There were some experts out there that felt that Philadelphia was one of the teams to beat in the East, and that they were projected to challenge. Because think about it. Was it Toronto with the Kawhi 3 bounces that eliminated them. Yeah, yeah. So there were a lot of people around the country following the NBA that believe that, you know, Philadelphia, this could be the opportunity, the time for them to, you know, to stake their claim and make a run for it because of, you know, the personnel. And now you look at it today and you go, wow, what the heck happened? You know, 2 of their key components are down and out, and this team is going, you know, nowhere. So strange thing as far as the league is concerned, not only on the court, but, you know, as far as injuries are concerned, and, you know, the direction franchises and organizations can go almost in the blink of an eye. As far as the blink of an eye is concerned, I want to switch gears a little bit, Doc, with you, Dr. Chad Padromas on a weekly podcast, Sports Medicine Update. You know, the National Football League, the players have reported the rookies were in camp a couple of weeks ago, and now the rest of the personnel, as far as the players are concerned, have reported up to their respective facilities for workout, albeit they're still, you know, under protocol as far as COVID testing and you know, social distancing as best as they possibly can. But we look at football and we see the physical specimen of these athletes, and it's amazing, you know, over the years how we've seen the evolution of these athletes. They're bigger, faster, stronger, and we talk about bigger, and we focus a little bit on the offensive lineman and the defensive lineman as well. But you and I go back we're a little bit long in the tooth, and we talk about, you know, a 300-pound, you know, football player, and that, of course, William Refrigerator Perry with the beloved Chicago Bears and the '85 Super Bowl team. We know that the Dallas Cowboys in their dynasty run with Troy Aikman under center, and of course Emmitt Smith running the rock for them, they were behind one of the biggest offensive lines the National Football League had ever seen. We know that players now are well over 300 pounds because of the change in the game. But you and I have talked over a, you know, extensive period of time as far as the health and life expectancy of these players once they leave the professional ranks of the National Football League. And we've seen some players who have really even gotten even bigger once they left the game because their diets and their workout habits have changed. But we've seen other players who have, if not maintained that playing weight, they've actually gotten smaller. And you've looked really deeply into this, and I want you to share with our viewers and our listeners, you know, your thought behind the players and their physical being from playing, you know, leaving the sport. Do you mind elaborating?
I've been aware of it, and I've looked into it more lately. The COVID thing's kind of brought it to bear because, as we talked about last week, a majority of the people who have opted out are linemen. And, you know, you wonder why that would be. So you look at, you know, what risk factors they have. So the combination of obesity and testosterone is a definite risk factor. So heavy men do worse with COVID. That's abundantly clear. But, you know, picking out the specific risk factors, so obesity by itself appears to be in a male. But the other thing is that obesity causes all kinds of other problems. Autoimmune problems. Asthma, for example, is made worse by being heavy. Now, it's not to say if you're heavy with asthma and you lose weight, it's going to go away. But there's no question that overall it's made worse. Obviously, diabetes, you know, definitely made worse. And there are young men who are diabetic or pre-diabetic. And so, you know, I wonder myself, there's not a lot written, and that's probably a good thing, as to why so many linemen have opted out. And I don't know. I don't know if they see the, the obesity statistics, or if I know in the Bears, Eddie Goldman, right? It was just in the paper that he suffers from asthma, and he's a fabulous player. Oh my goodness, you know, big and strong. And that's probably why he's not playing, because I read he is out with a designation of high risk. I think they get little more money or something. But I just think I would love to see football turn back the page to where players were 30, 40 years. And the guys were big, but like we were talking about earlier, Roosevelt Brown, when I was a kid, Detroit Lions, one of the 100 best players of the, I think, 20th century, whatever, fearsome foursome, right? Defensive tackle. And he was 6'3" and 255, right? So if, he'd be a linebacker today. The guys that are 6'3" are 320, 330. And so a few statistics that are kind of interesting. So if you look at BMI, and I've got a little cheat sheet here prepared. So BMI, body mass index, and it's raw, and this is just size. There's a whole separate variable with body fat and just percentage of body fat. But so 25 is considered overweight. Now all NFL players by that range are overweight because they're so muscular. 30 is considered obese. 35 morbidly obese. Say 40 is morbidly obese. But the numbers I came up on, which kind of interesting, is that first of all, they used to say that NFL players died young. As I looked into it, I found out that it doesn't look like they do so much anymore, except that if you're heavy. So a BMI of 30 obese is said to take 3 years off of your lifespan. A BMI of 35 is said to take 8 years off of your lifespan. And a BMI of 40 is said to take 20 years off of your life. So then you say, well, what do those numbers translate to in terms of height and weight? Well, I'll tell you, 6'4" and 328 is a BMI of 40. So statistically, if you're that size, you cut 20 years off your life on average, obviously. So 6'4" and 328, I mean, that's average size, maybe below average. I don't know, nose tackles, defensive tackles. And I won't mention names. I was looking at some, players around the league. But there are people on the Bears that are bigger than that, and there are people all over the league, offensive line as well. So, these players are big because they have to be big, but it's very unhealthy. And as I mentioned a few weeks ago, and I feel pretty strongly about this, and I'm going to try to see if I can. And see, the thing that really bothers me about it is the college players. I read an article from 2013 that said the University of Florida at that time had 12 or 14 players over 300 pounds. This is a college, and I'm sure it's more today. And then this high school there had all these players over 250. So the problem is when the pros are that big, it trickles down. Now, here's the thing. When you get to be that big, there aren't too many people that are 6'4" and 320 that are ripped, And so what I'm saying is I would love to see it be the case that if you work out and you're big and really strong and your body fat is low, that's great. But when the guys put on an extra 30, 40 pounds of weight that's mostly fat, it maybe makes them a better blocker or they get the quarterback a little bigger, but it's terrible for their health. And what's even worse is, and this is nobody's fault, but they look at the pros. So then if you're playing in college and you want to be in the pros, you got to be that big. So now you're a college guy trying to be 320. And then if you're in high school and you want to go to a college, you're trying to be 250, 280. So there's all these people that are doing really unhealthy things to their bodies. And I think the whole thing could be rectified, make it a level playing field for everybody. And if you say, well, if your BMI is over 30, you can't play unless you get a body fat test, which is easy enough to do. There's these little machines where you just stand there and they test it. Unless your body fat is like under 20%. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. 20%, the running backs, the wide receivers have body fat that's like 9%, right? So 20% is not super skinny. But that could be done. I think it benefits everybody. I think the players would embrace it because then the guy that's 340, he doesn't want to be 300. If the lineman he's going against is 340, but if everybody's, getting down in size, it doesn't disadvantage him. I think then it trickles down to the college, it trickles down to the high school, and you'll literally save lives. I mean, people will live longer if that culture could be changed. The owner should like it because their players are going to stay healthier. The players are all about health, right? They're working on helmets that, you can't spear, you can't tackle, you can't crack back block. That's all great stuff. It should all be about health. So I think that at all levels, if you say, well, BMI has to be limited to 30, which is still pretty heavy, and if you want to be bigger than that, fine, but you've got to be ripped. It's got to be muscle, not fat. And And for the COVID thing, in the UK, they are working on obesity as a risk factor because they know it's a risk factor.
Right.
That tends to not happen in this country for, I don't know what, social reasons. People get offended, I guess. But the NFL, I think, could set a great example. And I mean, there's precedent for doing this kind of stuff. I think they could set a great example. I think everybody would like it. I've been doing a little research on this. I'm intending to try to get it out there in the public dialogue. NCAA, IHSA in the state, high schools, the pros. I think you help COVID. You set a good example. You cut down on diabetes, on heart disease, on autoimmune disease. It's good for the culture. I think it's good for everybody. And I don't see any reason why it can't happen.
No, I think it's fantastic. I think you're right on point, and it's a great indicator to learn if these owners and these organizations are really concerned about these athletes, their health, their livelihood, and more importantly, life after the sport, life after football. Doc, there's more. I'm sure we're just touching the tip of the iceberg as far as this conversation, this topic is concerned. Definitely want to dive back into it a little bit more moving forward regarding the podcast. It goes real fast, but there's so much wealth of information and knowledge that's coming from this podcast, and we look forward to it every week. The Sports Medicine Update. If people want to get a hold of you, if they want to find out more about what Dr. Chad Padromas does, and if you can help them, how do they get in contact with you, Doc?
Just call our main number. It's 847-699-6810, or you can email at ortho@ismoc.net. This question actually came from an email from a viewer listener. So we're happy to talk about sports and bring things here that are of interest, and always happy to see you as well to help where I can.
Well, I'm looking forward to getting more into this topic, this discussion, because it's definitely, we want to make sure everyone's out there having a grand time, having a fantastic time, enjoying themselves, especially with the beautiful weather that we're experiencing. So if you're out there playing golf, if you're out there shooting hoops, if you're bicycling, swimming, whatever the case may be, we want you to be safe and sound. But if for some reason you sustain some type of sports injury, Dr. Chad Padromas, Sports Medicine Update, the podcast, where you want to be to find your help, find your aid, find your support. And we love bringing it to you every week. No question about it. Doc, thank you so very much. We look forward to talking with you. Have a great weekend, and another edition of Sports Medicine Update podcast. Take care of yourself.
Thank you so much, Jerry.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Sports Medicine Update podcast, a weekly podcast with yours truly, Jerry Riles, and, of course, the Honorable Dr. Chad Padromas. Doctor, how are you?
Having a great day, Jerry. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm out on the deck, so to speak, and enjoying the beautiful, beautiful weather here in the greatest city in the world, and, of course, Chicago, Illinois, but always looking forward to having an opportunity to sit down and chat with you regarding the weekly podcast and, of course, the world of sports, Doctor. In Major League Baseball, the Florida Marlins, they had to take a few days off. About 20 players tested positive over the past couple of weeks regarding the coronavirus and COVID-19. But it seems like, Doctor, despite the fact of over the league, the St. Louis Cardinals, the Milwaukee Brewers, and players around the league have tested positive for coronavirus and COVID-19. We haven't really seen any major illnesses or people coming down with some severity as far as, the results of testing positive for coronavirus and COVID-19. What is your assessment to all of this that's developed over the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, I agree with you, Jerry. And I just know what I read in the papers like everybody else. But it's interesting. The one account I read said the Marlins had 20 people test positive, but only one had symptoms with body aches and cold-like symptoms, and that they had played a 3-day series. I don't remember the name of the team, and that nobody on the other team, at least to that point, had tested positive. So I think it's, one would have predicted that these young, healthy people, by and large, would not get severely infected. And we talked before about how baseball players, by and large, are pretty lean. I'd mentioned that I think football's a little bit of an outlier because it's the one sport where you get much bigger people. So I think, several things are noteworthy. One, that people didn't seem to get sick. Two, that it spread within the team, but not to the other team. And, three, there's an issue with this that hasn't really been talked about, but I talked about a few weeks ago, the whole herd immunity thing. So, herd immunity got talked about. Is it the complete answer to the problem or not? And I mentioned then, and I've written about this, I think herd immunity is kind of an intermediate thing. It's something that, if you will, flattens the curve. So when you think about it, the Marlins now are going to have, once everybody's back, I don't know, I think the rosters are 30, so maybe 20 out of 30 or something like that, people that aren't going to get infected. And if you're thinking, well, people have said that there are reinfections, I will tell you that there haven't been. The tests may vary a little, but there has not been a documented instance of somebody getting reinfected and then infecting somebody else. So the point is, most people think that these supposed reinfections are either tested or testing positive for fragments of the virus that aren't infectious. Anyway, so I think most people think that once you've had it, you're pretty much immune, at least for a significant period of time. So the point is, when you think about it, in the future, if, say, one of the 10 people, one of the people that wasn't infected gets infected, a majority of the people in that dugout are not going to be able to transmit it. And that just exerts a negative effect on the spread of the virus.
No, it's interesting, and again, we've talked about this over the past few weeks, and of course, the past few months since the outbreak in March, and there's different speculations and theories, regarding how severe this could be. On one end of the spectrum, and you and I have talked about it. Some people say they chalk it up as this, nothing more than the common flu, so to speak, and others are saying that it could lead to unfortunately the end of life, and the spectrum is very, very broad. As far as Major League Baseball is concerned, they don't want to be on the wrong end of this thing, and no one does. So now they're saying that players, they have everything in place, but now they're saying that players have to take it another step higher and police themselves away from the ballpark and the facilities by not going out to public venues or engaging with other folks outside of the baseball family, because you only increase the risk of potentially and possibly, bringing that virus into the clubhouse. And you and I are both on the same page. I believe that these guys are certainly the most physically fit specimens on the face of the planet when you talk about professional athletes. But the unfortunate or the downside of it is the people that they may engage with away from the ballpark, whether it's a family member or wife, or girlfriend, kids, elderly, or anything like that, who are more vulnerable. That's where the real scare comes in and the real focus comes in. Despite what we think, how do you handle that when you're away from the ballpark if you're these professional athletes, in particular Major League Baseball players who have the high numbers?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. And the thing is, I think they wind up being like other people that go to work. I have a medical practice. I go in, as I said, we scrub down the rooms, we have plexiglass up, I wear a mask all day. And then when I'm not in the office and when I'm not at home, I'm careful. I'm careful if we go grocery shopping. We've done a couple of social things, but we're careful when we do them. So I think it's kind of, and we don't have, we have one elderly person that we see who's a relative from time to time. You're just careful. And I don't think it's any different for baseball players than it is for other people. And, as you said, if you want complete safety, then just shut down and quarantine permanently. But, I mean, they're not going to do that. It was kind of my point. I mean, if they're not playing baseball, I don't think they're staying inside all day. And people like them, young, active, fit people, are probably the last people that are going to be satisfied staying home. And then if they do, there's other things that come up. There's, everybody knows domestic issues and drug issues and all kinds of things. So I think they do what they do in the bubble. When they're away from the bubble, they're just careful. And then I think that's all you can do. I don't really see where shutting down the season, I mean, if that were an option, or even withdrawing. I mean, if people want to withdraw players, they should. If you can afford not to work and you're uncomfortable working, by all means, you should. So I'm not questioning that right. What I am saying is that for those athletes, I think maybe unlike football players, if they choose not to play baseball, I don't know, I think then how do they spend their days? Staying inside all day watching television? I think that's kind of unlikely. So, and I think I've watched other sports more than baseball. I don't know how many people, maybe you do in baseball, have chosen not to play. But as you said, if you play and if you're really careful at other times, I think I think that's reasonable. I think it's about all you can do. And I think it's going to wind up being safe.
Yeah, I hope it does. And again, it's a very fine line. And you talked about, the symptoms, and it hasn't hit as far as the sports world is concerned, compared to mainstream America or society, hasn't had the effects of the long-term illnesses. Most of the players, pretty much all of them, have tested positive. They quarantine, and they seem to be okay. I just think that professional sports across the board don't want it to get to the point where a player who's pretty healthy take it home and say they're caring for an elderly parent. I know a lot of these athletes, they have newborns or young kids, that they have to look after and they have to be careful about. But I certainly understand they don't want, when I say they, the respective sports don't want these players taking this virus home, and then we have some really, negative experiences regarding personal family members and friends. So I think they're doing a very good job. I think that it's something eventually, regardless if it's a profession or not, we're going to have to live with as a society. And I think we're on the right track. You talked about professional sports as far as National Football League is concerned. Many of the teams reported to camp this past week, the last 10 days or so. Chicago Bears here in town, the northern suburbs of Chicago have reported. The rookies and now the veterans are starting to trickle in. And we've seen some footage, Doctor. I don't know if you had an opportunity to see it, but we've seen some footage of the players, going through their walkthroughs at the Walter Payton facilities, and they have their mask on, which is kind of interesting, because one would say it's kind of difficult, to perform at a high level wearing these masks. Have you had a chance to see the visuals, and what do you think about the precautions Major League or National Football League are taking regarding these players?
I think that I have not seen the video. It's interesting. And one just minor thing back on baseball again and the young families. It's almost a reflex to say, well, we have to protect the children. And of course we do. But as you know, and I don't know about newborns, but children, young children, school-age children, young school-age children have just shown almost no propensity to get it. And these athletes tend to be younger. They tend to have young families. So certainly if you got grandpa at home, I mean, I think that's the time to make some other living arrangement for grandpa if you can afford it, and most of them can. but a young athlete and his young wife and their young child, never say never, but I think that whole situation isn't so bad. Regarding working out with a mask, and I've tried it. I don't know if you have, but I think, lifting weights with a mask, I think is fine, and I do it. Doing something aerobic, a little tricky, but, and so I don't know, I think, I think there's no harm in trying and doing walkthroughs and doing virtual things, but, I don't think you could actually play in a game with a mask, probably.
Yeah, I would find it very difficult. And even if you started the game, these players with mask on, I think it'll be very difficult throughout the course of the 3-hour period that these guys are going to be, they're going to keep these masks on for their protection, because as you well know, the energy and the adrenaline and everything that goes into a professional sport at a high level, emotions play a major role and a major factor. And I think these players may get away from that, because we've seen it. They have penalties as far as taking off the helmet on the field. And we've seen players, do that and get penalized for it and fined for it and all of that. So it would be very interesting to see what transpires regarding the protocol or the things put into place for these players to keep these masks on throughout the course of a football game.
Jerry, I'm sorry. Just one other thought, just on baseball again, because Jerry, I know you're a student of the game, and I know you're a player. I got a question for you. I was thinking, if you wanted to take a sport that's a model for social distancing, it's kind of baseball, right? You look at the diamond, and there's all these guys standing 10 feet away from each other. And the one exception to that, outside of somebody sliding into a base, but the one exception to that is in the batter's box. So let me ask you a question, and you're more of a student of this than I am. I was thinking to myself, you got the catcher, you got the batter, and you got the umpire. And the umpire's bent over, and he's close to the catcher, and the player's not far away. So, I wonder to myself, I've read here and there about electronic balls and strikes being used. And I've read that it works. I may have this wrong, but I thought I read about it being used in minor leagues here and there, and it wasn't so bad. I mean, I think this, and it's different at first and third base. The umpire's not like right there breathing down the first baseman's neck. But, I wonder about if you, at least for now, if you just substituted out the home plate umpire for a mechanized thing. Then all you've got is the catcher and the batter, and maybe that's suboptimal, but at least with the umpire out of there, you don't have the umpire breathing the same air with all these guys the whole game. And who knows, maybe you put some kind of a plexiglass thing on the catcher too. But what do you think about that? You think getting rid of the home plate umpire and doing electronic would work in the bigs?
Wow, that's a great question. I think even before the pandemic, Doc, I think, Major League Baseball was looking at that, and you talked about it, sampling it or, testing it out in the minor league levels. And I think that's a different subject for a different day. Might speed up the day with the pandemic. Baseball purists like myself, and I believe like you, we want to see the umpire there, because you and I go back to the day. Remember in the American League where they had those big inflatable chest protectors? Remember?
Yeah,
right. They were when we evolved from that, some people are like, hey, I don't like the way it looks, others do. As far as the electronic, baseball monitoring is concerned with the strikes, balls and strikes, I think technology is gearing toward that, and the pandemic might speed it up. But who knows? It's got to go through the collective bargaining agreement with the owners and the players union to determine if that's what they want to use. And of course, they have to find an alternative to put another umpire out on the field just to make sure that they can, no pun intended, but cover all the bases as far as the calls out in the field, right? But that's a good perspective as far as accelerating this thing and testing it out because of the pandemic. The one thing about baseball, and it's been brought to my attention as well, along with the other sports, Doc, is, you and I, they talk about the spitball, right? They outlawed the spitball.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's but you still see pitchers going. They get off the mound, and they go to their mouth.
Yeah.
And then they rub
Great
the ball
point.
up, right?
Yeah.
And then they get back out there and throw. Now, in this this era of COVID and coronavirus, some people are saying, "Hey, wait a minute," because guys' hands are sweaty because they're out there in the field. They're wiping their brow.
Yeah.
And there's a ground ball to Javi Baez, a short. He grounds it, picks it up, and throws it over to Rizzo. There's still some type of perspiration.
Yeah.
Some type of moisture on the ball. And can that transfer from one to the other? I mean, have you heard of that situation?
Yeah, it's a great thought. I haven't. And, as to the umpire thing, it's kind of interesting tennis, right? So, back in the days of McEnroe, right? They had before they had I forget what they called it, but the electronic figuring out Hawkeye maybe with tennis balls. And so, some people thought it was entertaining to see McEnroe or somebody arguing with the line judge. I respected the fact that he was a competitor, but I was not a big fan. Anyway, so they got rid of, they have the Hawkeye thing, so there's no more arguments. And, they still have the lines people, I guess. But I think the addition of the electronics has been a plus. It's not the same thing with baseball exactly, but, might also get rid of a few arguments.
No, it may get, but as you all know, in this beautiful world that we live in, whatever man creates, there's always some type of opposition, regardless if it's good for life and society or not. You're always going to find someone that's going to question the technology. And of course, we know with the Houston Astros and winning the World Series, as far as stealing signs and using cameras and banging on the garbage cans in the dugout, someone's always going to find an advantage regarding technology. And I'm sure if we got rid of home plate umpire in place of the electronic sports tracker for strikes, balls, and strikes, he's certainly going to have somebody questioning, the equipment and the technology. But
so Jerry,
that's the world we live in.
I got another question for you. So you're just so knowledgeable. I'll be the interviewer here a little bit. But how about the dugout? So I think players are still in the dugout, right? So I'm thinking to myself, there's no fans, at least I think. So why not put the players, in seats next to a door that comes out of the field, couple of seats apart? What do you think?
What do you mean? I'm sorry.
Put the players in the seats, put them in first row seats right behind the dugout instead of in the dugout to increase social distancing.
Well, they do have the, it's like kind of like a canopy in the stands, in the box seat area. And I believe during the exhibition games or whatever, they had the players, sitting there for some sort of social distancing as well.
Yeah.
I think the reason they're, allowed in the dugout or whatever is the fact that, again, once these players, every day that they come to the ballpark, they're getting their temperature taken and, they are getting tested. And as long as the test results come back negative, owners and management and the players alike feel that we are safe, we're not contagious, no one has it. And so we are, we can get somewhat close in the dugout. Now, of course, they try to eliminate the high five and they try to eliminate as much contact as possible. If you remember last week, Javi Baez with a walk-off winner over at, I believe, Wrigley Field, it took place. And normally the players, they go and they hug each other and they jump up and down. Well, this was kind of like a social distance circle. And Javi Baez giving, the family high fives just to protect themselves and keep the social distancing. But I like your idea, Doc. I just think that Major League Baseball feel that, we're safe. We're okay.
Well, here's the thing, though. So, there is debate even now. Some of the contagion is, they were thinking is less than it was, probably less on surfaces than was thought. And how long you contagious, maybe not quite as long as, probably not out to 14 days. But there appears to certainly be a period of time if you, you get infected on a Wednesday, that maybe you don't get symptoms until Sunday, but Friday and Saturday you can be contagious. So just because you have negative tests, when you first, it is thought to take 2 days, 2.2 days. I've seen different results, but it's the tests almost never turn positive, it is thought, from the studies that are out there, on the first day. So you're exposed to somebody on a Wednesday, and you're ultimately going to get sick. Well, on Thursday, your test is almost certainly going to be positive. And it might be positive Friday. So the point is that just because you have negative tests on a daily basis, if somebody does get infected, there's going to be periods where they could theoretically contaminate somebody else. So I'm just thinking, you got all these empty seats out there. I know it's good to be in the dugout because you're sitting next to people and you can talk strategy, but I don't know. I mean, why not just take advantage of these seats? And I know what you're saying. They think it's safe enough, and maybe it is. It just strikes me that, like I said, baseball just seems to be the prototype for a sport where everything is socially distanced. And like I said, I thought, home plate umpire for one, dugout number two, and I think you could ameliorate both of those too.
Well, the downside to that one, Doc, is, of course, let's take a look at the Florida Marlins, and let's take a look at the St. Louis Cardinals. And that's why we saw it with the New York Yankees. That's why a lot of games were canceled, not because the one respective team was clean with no positive tests, but it's the Florida Marlins and the St. Louis Cardinals with their players and visiting locker rooms, right?
Yeah.
And those players were in, which caused some sort of contamination. So now that's where, some people are a little leery and skeptical, and we have to keep them away, because my team and the Cubs, let's give them credit, they have been probably the best team in Major League Baseball, if not the top two teams in baseball, who have come back with negative tests, and their players are doing everything they're asked to do to protect themselves. But if they have to question the St. Louis series for this week, because the St. Louis players tested positive for this. And, you're going down to the clubhouse down in St. Louis, you don't want to run the risk of one of your players, getting contaminated or getting the virus and then, spreading throughout your clubhouse. So that's the other, that's the other thing that needs to that Major League Baseball is taking a look at to protect everybody, not just, particular teams in particular cities.
Jerry, let me ask about something else that I've been kind of watching for, and I haven't seen, but, I don't know what everybody's doing. There is interesting technology, you're probably aware, with ultraviolet light. So
Right.
Ultraviolet light kills bugs, and they've even got these little lights where if you shine it on something, it kills viruses, although it takes 5 or 10 seconds. But there is technology out there to have ultraviolet lights above head level that shine horizontally, and then coupled with ceiling fans that suck air up, that have been shown to be able to a significant degree to sterilize air, and it costs a couple of bucks. I don't know what it costs. I think it's, going to be some expense. I don't think it's crazy expense though. I'm thinking, you just mentioned clubhouses, but it seems to me that might be kind of a useful thing. I have not heard about any teams doing it. Have you?
Yeah. There's actually, and forgive me on this, I believe it's on the collegiate ranks. It could be on the professional ranks, but there's actually a machine that has already been created. I think it runs around $5,000, and it stands about maybe 3 to 4 feet high, Doc, and it's got 4 or 5 ultraviolet, the bulbs, vertical from the floor up to about yay high, and it's on wheels, and they cart it, literally, it's like a remote control robot, and they program, they do the remote control with it, and it goes throughout the clubhouse, and supposedly it kills the virus. So there's actually a contraption. I use that term loosely, but there is an equipment that actually does that. and it's not marketed to the other teams right now. I think it's just in the experimental stages right now. But you're absolutely right. There is some technology out there to help with
So
this
it's
as far
interesting.
as- yeah.
The issue with that is that so UV light. So if you did it when at night when nobody was there, it'd be great. I don't know that we necessarily want it to be operating when people are in the clubhouse and irradiating people with UV light. The thing that I was talking about, and I don't know what it would cost, I don't think it'd be a ton of money. The ceiling fans, I don't think are expensive. I don't know how tall the ceilings are in clubhouses. I mean, if it's 8 feet, it might be a problem, but I think they're taller than that in general. But then you mount these lights, and this kind of thing might be of interest to the general audience out there as well, because I've read about this in factories and other places where they're using this technology. So you have the lights up high, and you keep them on continuously, even when people are there. So if somebody is spewing out virus particles, it kind of sterilizes the air even while people, are there.
Yeah.
Without irradiating people with UV light.
No, that's really, really interesting. I think down in the NBA hub in Orlando, I heard a report on ESPN where the players, I guess they have like a wristband of some sort, correct? And it's an indicator to signal off if someone is carrying the virus. And I don't know exactly how it works. I think it's color coordinated as well. And if you're getting too close to someone, it'll start to alert. They say, hey, you're getting too close. And I don't know all the details surrounding us, but I think they're testing this out down in the NBA bubble in Orlando. And who knows, it may see itself, if this thing continues and we don't get a grasp on it, it may see it throughout all the sports, not only in the professional ranks, but on the collegiate ranks as well. Doc, it is a great podcast, and there's so much more that we can dive into, and we certainly will dive into. And we want everyone to be tuned in to the Sports Medicine Update podcast, and check it out, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Just Google the Sports Medicine Update, Dr. Chad Prodromos. If people want to get a hold of you, how can they find you?
So our main office number is 847-699-6810. You get actual human beings answering the phone, not a voicemail or a phone bank. And then our email to our general email mailbox is just ortho, like orthopedics, ORTHO at ismoc.net. And we'll answer everything that comes to us.
We certainly will. And if anyone has a question they want to ask the good doctor, just send your replies, your comments to that email address, and we'll certainly address it on the weekly podcast. Doc, thank you so very much. Always a pleasure, and always looking forward to the insight and the knowledge that you bring to our audience. Keep up the great work. Want you to stay safe. Are you down there in Florida?
Yeah, we're down in Naples. We have a satellite office down in Naples, and be careful, but we are. So it's not a real hotspot. Parts of Florida are. This part not so much.
Well, there's so much that we can certainly talk about, even away from the world of sports, but we'll keep it locked in. Doc, stay safe. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week on the Sports Medicine Update.
You too, Jerry. Thanks.
And people want to be safe. People don't want to go to a ballpark and be sick. People that, especially in a crowd, that 6 foot distance, or better is something that is very interesting. You can play with a mask on, you can play with a screen, but you don't want, and it's dangerous because the fact that it's communicable. People talk to one another, and who knows got the virus, who doesn't have it. And let's hope, as I said, no athlete really gets really sick, because doctors are not curing a lot of these things. People are dying. Almost 200,000 people have died from this virus right now. So it's tough.
Yeah, it certainly is tough. Is there anything you'd like to share with our audience to let them know what's going on with Ferguson Jenkins during this time?
Well, spring training was almost over when they called it off, and I tried to sell my house in Arizona, and now I'm living in Texas. And I've been in Texas here for almost 3 months, staying close to home. And you know what's nice? I told myself, I'm going to stay close to home. I'm going to buy 2 dogs, which I have. I bought a Lab and a German Rottweiler, and they're 15-week-old puppies. And I'm raising these dogs right now. I'm going to train them. One's going to be a house dog, and one's going to be a bird dog. And that's keeping me busy right now. I'm just staying close to home and doing my thing.
Well, you know what, Fergie, you're a great humanitarian, a great individual, and you're still beloved in the greatest city in the world as far as sports and anything, Chicago, Illinois. And it's always a pleasure and an honor to get an opportunity to chat with you and catch up with you and just reminisce down memory lane and just make sure that old Ferguson Arthur Jenkins is doing okay. And before we let you go, man, I got to ask you, can you share with the listening audience, maybe the younger folks who may not be familiar, when they hear the term the white rat, the white rat, what are you referring to when you make that comment? Yeah.
The late Andy Semenick was my first manager in Class D ball, and he called the baseball the white rat. He said, you got to be more intelligent than the rat and make it do what you want it to do. Make good pitches, make good decisions, and the rat will take care of itself.
And for you, it certainly did. Hey, Fergie, real quick, before we spring you.
Pretty good.
Hey, real quick, I wanted you to say hello to a longtime iconic figure in the Chicagoland area as well. He's in the political world, and he's on our TR60 hotline. Congressman Danny Davis, welcome to the Rewind. How are you?
I'm doing great,
Danny Davis, how you doing?
Say hello to Ferguson Jenkins. Say hello to Ferguson Jenkins,
hello.
Congressman.
I'm a big Ferguson Jenkins fan. I always did like those good right-handers who could throw that ball. Yes, indeed. Fergie, it's so good to hear you know that you're doing well. Thanks for all the thrills that you gave to us in Chicago when you were out there on the mound. I go way back. And so you were an outstanding player and a gentleman as well. So thank you so much.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Well, I enjoyed my time. The 10 years I played and the coaching time I had there was a lot of fun. Chicago's my second home for sure.
Hey, Fergie, you're always welcome here in the greatest city in the world. We love you. Stay healthy, and we'll talk to you down the road. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk some baseball in the next few weeks, okay?
Let's hope so. Yeah, keep your fingers crossed.
Take care, Fergie.
Nice talking to you.
On our TR60 hotline, Ferguson Arthur Jenkins, and we're pleased to welcome to the Rewind Sports 60 on WCPT 820 AM. He is Congressman Danny Davis on our hotline. Congressman, how are you? Welcome, and happy Father's Day to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm having a great day. It's been wonderful, and I've had lots of telephone calls and well wishes and aftershave lotion.
Well, it's well deserved, Congressman. It is well deserved, and we appreciate you picking up the phone and joining us on the Rewind Sports 60. This is a sports show, but there's not much sports to talk about. We're waiting to see what's going to happen with baseball. The pandemic has hit the National Football League as well as Major League Baseball, and so we're still trying to see if the National Football League is going to get underway. We were hoping to see the Bears back in camp in mid-July, and we were hoping for a regular season come this fall, but with this pandemic just taking no prisoners, Congressman, we talk sports, real life, entertainment, and politics. But on this Father's Day, we wanted to reach out to you and see how you were doing. And I was just wondering, Congressman, you were giving out certificates this past weekend for great fathers around the Chicagoland area and particular communities, and I didn't get my memo. I didn't get my certificate. What happened? Tell us about it.
We did more than 200, and it's a fascinating kind of thing. And of course, I represent the White Sox, the Bulls, the Red Wings and the Black Wings and the Black Hawks, the Bears. All of them are mine, except the Cubs are a little out of my area. But all of the other professional sports teams in Chicago, I represent in my congressional district. So sports is a big part of everything that we do. We look forward to the seasons being reopened, and it's going to be a great year. We just have to. The University of Illinois is working on a vaccine. They're doing clinical trials right now. They're mine too, and so we're looking forward to good stuff.
Well, it is. Yeah, it is.
Oh, it's fascinating. We, for the last 8 years, have been taking children to the Sheridan Penitentiary to see their fathers so that they can stay connected with their families. Because of the virus, we couldn't make that trip, so we figured out another way of doing it. And so the Department of Corrections gave us the opportunity to communicate with every inmate in state prisons who wanted to hear the message that we conveyed to them. And then we decided that there were a lot of men on the outside who had done outstanding work as fathers. So we organized a way to give each one of them a certificate of appreciation. Well, thank you so very much. It was good hearing Fergie Jenkins, but I enjoyed the show. I even listen every once in a while. I believe in being cosmopolitan. You can't just stick around some things. You got to be somewhat comprehensive.
Make sure you tell your friends.
Well, Congressman, thank you for being a fan, and it won't be the last time you're going to be on the Rewind Sports 6. We appreciate your support. We love what you're doing, and we'll certainly be in contact. And stay safe, okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
He's the best. I love this man. Yeah. Congressman Danny Davis on our TR60 hotline. We appreciate you picking up the phone and joining us on the Rewind Sports 60. This is a sports show, but there's not much sports to talk about. We're waiting to see what's going to happen with baseball. The pandemic has hit the National Football League as well as Major League Baseball, and so we're still trying to see if the National Football League is going to get underway. We were hoping to see the Bears back in camp in mid-July, and we were hoping for a regular season come this fall, but with this pandemic just taking no prisoners, Congressman, we talk sports, real life, entertainment, and politics. But on this Father's Day, we wanted to reach out to you and see how you were doing. And I was just wondering, Congressman, you were giving out certificates this past weekend for great fathers around the Chicagoland area and particular communities, and I didn't get my memo. I didn't get my certificate. What happened? Tell us about it.
We did more than 200, and it's a fascinating kind of thing. And of course, I represent the White Sox, the Bulls, the Red Wings and the Black Wings and the Black Hawks, the Bears. All of them are mine, except the Cubs are a little out of my area. but all of the other professional sports teams in Chicago, I represent in my congressional district. So sports is a big part of everything that we do. We look forward to the seasons being reopened, and it's going to be a great year. We just have to. The University of Illinois is working on a vaccine. They're doing clinical trials right now. They're mine too, and so we're looking forward to good stuff.
Well, it is. Yeah, it is.
Oh, it's fascinating. We, for the last 8 years, have been taking children to the Sheridan Penitentiary to see their fathers so that they can stay connected with their families. Because of the virus, we couldn't make that trip, so we figured out another way of doing it. And so the Department of Corrections gave us the opportunity to communicate with every inmate in state prisons who wanted to hear the message that we conveyed to them. And then we decided that there were a lot of men on the outside who had done outstanding work as fathers. So we organized a way to give each one of them a certificate of appreciation. Well, thank you so very much. It was good hearing Fergie Jenkins, but I enjoyed the show. I even listen every once in a while. I believe in being cosmopolitan.
Well,
you can't just stick around some things. You gotta be somewhat comprehensive.
Make sure you tell your friends.
Well, Congressman, thank you for being a fan, and it won't be the last time you're going to be on the Rewind Sports 6. We appreciate your support. We love what you're doing, and we'll certainly be in contact. And stay safe, okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
He's the best. I love this man. Yeah. Congressman Danny Davis on our TR60 hotline.
Relax, reset, rejuvenate. Go to our link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60.
Sports 60.
About a month ago, the five of us made a protest in Arlington Heights downtown, and since then we've been reached out by organizers of Mundelein, Vernon Hills, Wheeling, and a few others, and we all got together. So there's 15 of us who had meetings for the past 1 month to organize all of this. We brought in vendors that are Black-owned businesses, and we have voter registration. We have Black artists and singers and musicians here also. COVID testing as well. And then we also addressed, we put this protest in Wheeling because there's a lot of gentrification going on right now, and we had some issues that were told to us about the Wheeling police. And we wanted to address like the cops that work with them and call them out and hold them accountable. So that was our goal for specific demands for this protest, was towards Wheeling. Overall in the future, we really want to make sure that we hold our suburbs accountable just as much as we're holding our cities, and how protests are really strong and evident there, and we want to keep that momentum going on in the suburbs also.
When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it?
freedom and justice. What are you laughing at? This ain't funny. My four little children one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I am a dream today. Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down! I have a dream that one day down in Alabama with its governor having him live something one day right in Alabama, those black boys and black girls will be able to go ahead and fight girls and fight girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. Black lives, they matter now. Black lives, they matter now. Black lives, they matter now. I said black lives, they matter here. One day every valley shall be. I said black lives, they matter here. Every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain. And the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed in all the light. Shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the thing that I go back to with this faith. We will be able to stand a storm of peace. With this faith, we will be able to transform the dynamic discord of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day. This will be the day when all the George Floyd. Be able to take new meaning. My country is. Say her name. Sweet land. Say her name. Say her name. What do we want? Don't get weak on me. I said, what do we want? When do we want it? I said, when do we want it? I said, when do you want it? And if you don't get it, if we don't get it, if we don't get it, if we don't get it, from the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom reign from the Alleghenies. No peace, no justice, let freedom reign from the smoke that crackles of Colorado. No righteousness, let freedom reign. Black lives, they matter now. Black lives, they matter. Not only that, black lives, they matter. Let freedom reign from Stone Mountain. Black lives, they matter here. Let freedom reign from Lookout Mountain, Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and whole hill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and when this happens, when we let it ring from every village and every house, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all the brothers and black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, we'll be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old spirit. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Shut it down. If you don't get it, shut it down. Shut it down. This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Our streets. Our streets. I say to you today, my friend. Our streets. Our streets. Our streets. Our streets. So even though we face difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream. One day, this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. I have a dream. Show me what democracy looks like. That one day on the red hills of Georgia, whose street? Sons of former slaves and the sons of former slaves. Will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood? I have a dream. One day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream. My 4 little children one day live in a nation where they will not.
And every day after American or a black person in America, and they get the same looks, but it's because of their skin color. So I can't.
Basically, being black is not a crime. That's what
Yeah, it gives us a little bit of taste of what their entire lives are like, and that's why we're even more empowered to continue doing such things.
But again, you said that there are people who've actually been flipped off from wearing these shirts.
Literally just the guy stopped right next to us and just flipped us off.
And this is in Wheeling on Dundee Road.
Yes.
And this is one of the reasons why we started this protest. We don't want this type of. We're like in the treatment and stuff, and obviously
people think it doesn't happen here,
but it does.
And also for Arlington Heights Facebook page, they posted our banner and like posted flyer on there. It got taken down multiple times.
Even though the Blue Lives Matter event is never not taken down, people can say whatever they want about it. And we post our event, it's taken down in less than 24 hours, multiple times.
So long term, what's the goal here?
Basically just like spread awareness to like the suburbs. Like it's just like I don't know. Maybe like I've seen like maybe 5 people from our high school show up here, which is really sad because like the Arlington Heights we got a lot, and it's like this needs to keep going. Like this needs to be heard.
It's
like,
not a
it
trend.
doesn't stop. Like exactly, it's not a trend. Like this is an outgoing because of like it's come and support us and do something about it. And
it's a movement, and a movement means it's a fundamental necessary change is taken afterwards. So from all that we're seeing is like we need our Congress to listen, and they can make a change.
A change is happening. Like,
yes,
especially with this, like it's definitely changes happening.
We're seeing one of the things I've heard is that America has been better since like a few years ago, but I don't want to see it slowly getting better. I want to see it change right now. I don't want to wait anymore.
But why is this so powerful for you, ladies, being non-African American, non-black, but your passion and your dedication and your support is so strong? Why is that?
Because we're allies. Yeah, we are allies, and I think that through all of the social media posts, we've been able to stay educated about this stuff and actually fight for what is right. This is human rights that we're talking about. It's nothing political. So we're fighting for like our friends and family for this cause. Yeah, like the life that I am given, I want others to experience it too, and not be like taken away just because of the skin of their color, because that's not something they can change. That's something you're born with. And also, like I have friends who are African American, and I love them, so I want to fight for them, because as a friend, that's what I'm supposed to do for them.
Not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and when this happens, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
The Rewind Sports 60.
Leroy. Welcome to episode 2, the Redemption Podcast, where you got myself, Quentin Demps, 10-year NFL veteran. Got my boy Jerry Riles, Chicago, jack of all trades. We talk truth, we talk current events, we talk life, we talk inspiration, we inspire, we motivate. Welcome to all the listeners today.
Welcome, man. Thank you so very much. This is on fire, man. And I love you taking control of this, man.
You want me to hold this?
Yeah, you can hold it. You the man. This is the Redemption Podcast, a weekly podcast everyone can pick up and follow, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on our website, therewindsports60.com, on SoundCloud, and many, many other outlets. It'll be coming to you in syndication. But the Redemption, man, episode number 2, season 1.
Number 2, season 1. We just have conversation. You know what, Jerry? What's on my mind right now?
What's that?
How important is your phone to you, man?
For me personally, being an old school cat, I can live without my phone. It's important to me. I've lost my phone earlier in 2019.
Yeah.
And I was without it for a little while, but I was able to make the adjustments because I'm like the old school cat, man, that, the rotary phones.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm used to that, so I can handle it. What about you?
Man, I asked the question because I took the phone from my 14-year-old today, and he almost had a panic attack, man. And I'm just like, golly, like these kids are just so wrapped up in this phone. And to me, the phone's important. Like sometimes I just want to throw it in Lake Michigan, though.
Right.
Sometimes I just want to get away from it and just chunk it from just throw it away.
Why'd you take it away from him?
What'd he do? He missed church this morning.
Oh, really?
He missed church this morning. He must have been up all night on his phone, So just trying to get him to be like, be more responsible. Like, bro, I told you to get up for church, and don't miss church. And so he missed church this morning. So I said, man, give me your phone, man. What are you doing? You on your phone all night. You can't wake up in the morning and take care of your responsibilities.
Right.
So give me the phone. And he would think I said Stoney. He was, Dad, I got this tomorrow. I got that tomorrow. Like, look, man, give me that phone, man. I gotta have I gotta do something.
You know what? That's interesting. Now I got a confession to make because I missed church today too. So that means you're gonna take my phone away?
Nah. I ain't gonna take your phone away.
Hey, I did. I got some great friends who they follow the Lord and religion is important to them and going to church and they stay on top of me as well. Yeah. My family stay on top of me, but I have had the same experience. Yeah. My son is a little bit older than your son, but I think he was probably around 16, maybe 17 years of age in high school. Yeah. And same thing, man. He didn't want to get up and go to church. And he had been out with his boys, right? Yeah. And he didn't want to get up and go to church. And my wife was telling him, hey, you got to get up and go to church. Yeah. And he just turned over and put the cover over his head. And she kept telling him. And, so I'm like, hey, man, your mother told you to get up. Yeah. He's going to ignore me. Wow. Right? He's going to ignore me. Yeah. I'm like, dude, you don't want this to happen,
You don't
right?
want that, yeah.
So he's like, you still ignore me. I'm like, I'm going to give you one more chance. He didn't respond.
Wow.
So I learned this from my wife, whose dad did something similar to this, but I took it to another level. Yeah. When they wouldn't get up, her and her sisters, the dad would get the pot and the spoon and bang it. Ding, 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 bang it to wake them up, right?
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'm going to take a pot. Yeah. Right? Cute. Yeah. I filled it up with water.
You
know one of them big pots you make stew and everything in? I filled it up with water, man. I filled it up and I said, hey, I said, listen, man, your mother told you to get up. I told you to get up.
Yeah.
I'm giving you one last chance. He didn't get up. I took that water.
And put it all on his. Oh.
I went back to the sink, filled it up.
He was mad.
Went back to the sink, filled it up.
I know he was mad.
And we went to church. His whole bed, his whole mattress, his whole room, everything. Yeah. Dude, the water was dripping out the room. Yeah. Outside, it was dripping that much water.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Just being a parent nowadays, you got to really you got to really be aware of, just the electronics, man, the social media, just all the things that they are exposed to, because that stuff can raise your kids nowadays.
There are a lot of people that say that these electronic devices are, raising the kids.
Yeah.
And a lot of parents, they put the devices in front of the kid to act like a babysitter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
I'm guilty of that too. Yeah, for sure. Like, go get the iPad because I don't feel like entertaining you.
Really?
Right now. Yeah, for sure. I got 4 kids. So like, the iPads help out too. Sometimes when you're just trying to chill.
Do you monitor what's on the iPad?
Not really. I mean, not really.
Really?
Yeah, I could probably be better.
I think we all could be better.
Yeah.
because the thing is, we don't know what's on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And just because the kid has a device, like my kids, and I had 3 kids, right?
Yeah.
And we kept them busy.
Yeah.
And we gave them time to spend with their electronic devices. But it's a sticky situation.
Yeah, it is.
Because you got to trust them.
Yeah.
And you got to hope.
You got to trust them. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to trust and you got to hope.
Yeah.
That it sinks inside. Right.
Yeah.
Because a lot of kids have a lot of free time and
yeah.
You never know the elements that are out there, the undesirables that's out there. So that's why, to me as a parent, it's important to monitor. What they're doing, even though you got to give them their privacy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's a fine line.
Right.
It's a fine line for sure. I don't know. I know it's like there's no iPads during the week. Monday through Friday. Well, Monday through Friday after school is no iPads, but on the weekend, I'm kind of like lenient. I let them do their thing on the weekend. I just hate to go through it and see something I don't like. I'm gonna have to bust somebody up and be like, dang. Because I did it before. I'm like, what are you watching this for? Right. So. But yeah, man, I definitely got to monitor more, because you never know what they're watching.
Right.
Yeah.
My brother told me, man, and this is before the iPad. See, the first and foremost, you got to be a dad.
Yeah.
You got to be a dad.
Yeah.
And it may not be always pleasant. It may not always be a happy experience.
Yeah.
But I think, and my older brother taught me this. I think at the end of the day, the kids, your kids, my kids, eventually appreciate that,
right.
because, I would say to my brother, who's 4 years older than me, I was like, my son won't listen to me, these kids won't listen to me, and he said, just keep saying it,
That's good.
Because
That's good.
My old man did the same thing to him,
right,
and he said stuff started sinking in his 20s.
Yeah.
Oh, Dad said that.
That's
he
what
said. So just keep saying it, even though they may not be happy, and they gon' you think they hate you. At that time they do.
Yeah.
But he said that stuff gonna start to sink in.
Yeah.
And then they gonna realize, you know what? Old man was right.
Yeah, it was right. It was right. So
don't feel like I don't know. If you feel like damn, why'd I have to? Because dude, my family, they know I'm crazy.
Yeah, mine too.
Right.
Mine too. Yeah.
I don't
they know Daddy crazy.
Dude.
Yeah.
You tell me if that's how you are, but I don't. Hey, man, you rather have harm from me than somebody out there, because I love you.
Yeah.
Whoever's out there, man.
Yeah.
They just trying to get over on you.
Yeah, it's tough to teach though, because they don't believe that right now. Mm-hmm. Like he feels like his friends are more, they're more, like he can talk to them more. I'm like, bro, of course you can talk to your friends more because you're a teenager now. You don't want to come tell me and mommy some, stuff that you doing out there or whatever. So, don't feel like you can't come home, and it was born here or whatever. Like, I don't know. It's just weird, man. It's just, I'm having like a, real conversation with a 14-year-old that I'm responsible for. Just trying to tell him the same thing my mama told me. You're not gonna be in the streets all night. You're gonna have rules, and if you got something to say about it, remember this is my house and you ain't paying nothing here. So what I say goes. So we're trying to explain it to somebody who's like in the generation now. It's just 2020, Dad. You can't do this. You can't do that. What? Man, I'll pull up to your friend's house. I don't care where you at. You know what I mean? So he's like, man, you can't just pull up. I said, man, I'll pull up right now. Right. So, but yeah, that was just on my mind, man. Right now, just these phones, man. Like these phones are just so powerful nowadays, man. Just
it's incredible, and there's more coming along. And the interesting thing, again, my son, he's about 16, 17 years old, junior, senior in high school, and he's feeling himself. And he and his boys went out to IHOP. And my wife told him to be home, because, she worrying.
Yeah.
So, you need to be home by 12:30, 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
12:30, 1 o'clock passes. I'm in bad sleep, Q.
Yeah.
I'm asleep.
Yeah.
And she going to wake me up, but he not home yet. I go, okay, give him a couple. 1:30, 2 o'clock. He ain't home yet. So it's cutting into my sleep.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I go, what the hell, man? And this is, we had the phones not advanced as they are today.
Yeah.
So we called, she texted, all that stuff, and nothing.
Yeah.
So basically, finally, I said, okay, he don't want to answer the phone.
Yeah.
Can I cuss on this, man?
Yeah, absolutely. This is real talk, man.
Listen, man.
Emotion.
The little motherfucker don't want to pick up the phone. I'm like, okay, all right.
Yeah, that's
okay.
No, you better answer.
It's like 2:30, 3 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, fine.
Yeah.
Dude, the front door was locked. I did the old school thing. I took the chair.
Yeah.
So he couldn't get put it up underneath the doorknob, man. So he comes home trying to get it.
Cut the whole thing up.
Couldn't get in.
Yeah.
So he ended up going to his boy's house and sleeping in the garage, I think.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And then my wife getting on my case the next morning. Why'd you lock him out? I go, to teach him a lesson. But why are you coming up on me?
Yeah.
I was asleep.
Yeah.
And you came and got me.
Yeah.
And then he making all these excuses. Well, I'm like, dude.
Yeah.
You got a phone.
Yeah.
You with your boys. Well, my phone was dead. Well, okay, what about your boys?
Yeah.
They got phones. What?
Yeah.
So he making up all these excuses.
Yeah.
But I ain't the one. I'm not putting up with this nonsense.
I'll leave you out there to the wolves if you want to. I told you to be home at a certain time. You didn't come home. All right, we'll figure it out there,
Right.
Yeah, so.
Right.
Yeah, that's good, man. What else going on, man? What's up? What else?
Well, I mean, you got me on this social media and these phones and everything, man. And it's a never-ending battle, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Do you think social media is a benefit or is it hurting us as a culture, as a society?
What? That's a great question. And Chicago Cub third baseman Chris Bryant, who's rumored to be traded by the Cubs, said that Twitter and social media is probably the worst thing that ever happened to this world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Chris Bryant said that of the Cubs.
I wonder why he feels that way.
Well, because Q, it's an unfortunate situation because this gives a lot of people who normally wouldn't speak up or show up a lot of courage.
Gives them a voice,
right? It gives them a lot of courage to say some things or, to act upon some things and put some false information out there.
Wow.
And the bad thing about it is people gravitate toward it.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. I was getting my car checked at the dealership last week for the yearly checkup. And the Cubs, they haven't sealed a deal with Comcast regarding the Marquee Network, right?
Right.
And so, fans are trying to find it. They're, it's up in arms or whatever. This technician at the dealership said, "Oh, WGN Channel 9 is going to be airing the Cubs games in 2020.
Yeah.
They just signed a deal."
Yeah.
And we had been on the air.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And we hadn't talked about it. We hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
And this was Monday morning. And I go, "Hey, dude, I haven't heard that. I haven't seen that." He pulls it up on his phone.
Yeah.
And shows me.
Right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But Q.
It was
a fake. It was a
that's
fake.
That's the thing.
It was a fake.
That's the thing, man.
Yeah, it wasn't legit.
Yeah.
But he believed it.
Yeah.
And he started spreading that.
Yeah.
So that's an example why social media is not good, man.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it could be a gift and a curse. I think if you use it right, if you professional about it, if you try to just keep, the content where it's at, like, I think it's a good and bad thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially when you're trying to build a brand, give people some access to you as a fan. I think it's good and bad sometimes. I just know for me, like, I don't like it.
You don't like it,
but they say we need it to grow the brand.
Why you don't like it?
I don't know, cause I'm so introverted. I'm so closed in. Like, I don't want nobody in my business like that. Sometimes, like, but they say I got to do these things for my brand to grow, for the podcast to grow, for stuff like that to grow. Like, you gotta have social media. I'm just like, man, I really don't. I'd rather not, but I'll try it. So I'm still trying, like, to But Twitter is the main thing I use, though. I just be tweeting whatever I want to tweet, though. I don't care about trolls or anything like that.
Why is that?
It don't bother me. Like, it just.
What's the difference if you're on Twitter and you putting whatever out there?
Yeah.
Why are you more comfortable with Twitter as opposed to any of the other social media platforms?
Because Instagram, you need pictures. Snapchat, you need pictures. You got to really, like, let them in with pictures and stuff versus, like, just thinking out loud. I feel like Twitter, I'm just thinking out loud at the moment. You know what I'm saying? So it's just some thoughts that I said or that I typed right quick. Like, it ain't anything to, hold on to or value. It might inspire sometime. I might, say whatever I want to say. I might say something that I, heard in the music, a song. So it's just, I like Twitter. I like other people like tweet their mind too. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I met some good people on Twitter. Like, that's really like, that's kind of like my friends, but I don't even know.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, and they support my music more than my family do.
That don't scare you?
Nah, it don't scare me. It's cool. Like, I met some really good dudes on Twitter that I ain't even met in person yet.
Okay.
And we talk and text. We help each other out for free.
Right.
You're not doing what, man, I do your website for free for you, man. Like, what? You know what I mean? Versus, like, somebody I know, man, $300. So it's just, it's a good and a bad thing to me.
Yeah, it is good. I watch myself.
Yeah.
Because people can take things. My Twitter account was hacked, right?
Yeah.
I think a couple years ago, and so people who it was under my name.
Yeah.
My new handle is @1
Yeah.
real one Jerry Riles.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So. One real Jerry Riles @1 real
Yeah.
Jerry Riles.
Right.
It was just my name. Somebody got into it. So whenever someone would type in my name,
Yeah.
this hacked version of my Twitter account would come up.
Yeah.
Right. And people say, "Hey man, you need to change that." I'm not. All this stuff is.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you gotta have all this stuff to like it's a science to it or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's just
right.
it's just
and
crazy.
It's just too much, man. And so I understand it. The television station I worked at, they like you got to get your social media platform up, and I'm
Yep.
like, no, I ain't
on that.
I ain't feeling
I
that.
ain't on that. Yeah.
You know, I'm not trying to become friends with people. I got my friends, whatever.
Yeah, are we dating ourselves feeling this way? Are we old school? Or what?
Well, I am for sure.
You are for sure.
I am for sure.
All right, for sure.
But you're right. In order to build your brand and to survive in the industry and the direction that we're going, you have to do it because employers look at your social media platform, not only what you putting out there, but how many people are following you.
Yeah, that's just so corny to me. I don't know. I just don't like that. Like, don't judge me off my Twitter, please.
Right.
You don't know what I'm doing the rest of my day. I could be, you know what I mean? Good and bad.
Right.
So I don't like that. But I understand it. I get it. Especially like for high school guys and people like trying to get scholarships.
Right.
I can see that. I can see that what I can help out at. But just as a grown man, I just hate people like judging me off of Twitter.
Right.
It's just corny to me. So.
Yeah. No, I'm not real good with the social media.
Yeah.
But it's part of our world, and you know, we hope people that are on social media definitely check out the podcast.
Right. Exactly.
You got to be on social media to follow, and you're doing what you're supposed to do. You're building a brand.
Yeah. My Twitter is @QDimps. Anybody, just give me some tweets. But yeah, we about to close up. I like the short and sweet stuff. Short and sweet is good, right?
You like it?
Boom. Yeah. I like the episode 2, short and sweet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how we got to social media and parenting, but that's going to be the title for episode 2, right? Because we got to go right now, right?
Yes.
So we're closing up.
Yes, sir.
You want to close us out?
You can close out.
Yeah. So Redemption Podcast, episode 2, Jerry Riles, Quentin Demps, 17th letter. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, comment, question, hit us up. Peace.
Peace.
Showing up like Leroy.